The MP giving his reaction to President Trump's announcement last night.
Where things get messy is because we're in the EU's customs code. Once the EU imposes counter tariffs, and let's say they match the US tariffs at 20%, then that means anything coming into Northern Ireland from the US will be subject to 20% tariff, whereas anything coming into the UK will not. So that is where Northern Ireland business is going to be punished and penalised, and that's one of the consequences of being under a foreign customs code. The other thing to watch is if the EU should try to use Northern Ireland as a backdoor into the US, and particularly if the Republic tried to do that, then I'm quite sure the US would come down heavy on that, and we could find ourselves penalised further. So it's a far from straightforward picture, but basically exports from Northern Ireland on the UK tariff, imports into Northern Ireland on the EU tariff, and that's the real penalty on business.
And products like what coming into Northern Ireland now costing more? Like what?
Well, a lot of the supplies that we seem to get seem to be the essentially raw materials to our pharmaceutical industry, matters like that. I'm not sure there's such a great flow of actual consumer goods, but if you make the costs of your raw materials to your pharmaceutical industry, for example, higher by 20%, well, then of course you're less competitive. And that then has a downward effect on jobs and everything else.
But are you not jumping the gun here? Because the European Union have not. Look, they say that they're looking at a range of options, but they haven't announced retaliatory tariffs yet.
No, they haven't announced them yet, but I think it's pretty clear that's the direction they're going in. And if they do, then that imposes them in Northern Ireland. That, of course, is my fundamental constitutional objection, that we, a part of the United Kingdom, but yet should be subject to a foreign entity's tariffs on goods coming into our territory.
But if those goods coming in are for the UK market and can be proven as such, Jim, you can claim back the tariffs.
You can. Well, it is said in the winter framework that you could through a very convoluted system, but already businesses have found that anything you need to claim back in terms of costs is very convoluted indeed and takes a lot of time, and that affects cash flow. And the other thing to remember is if goods come into the GB from America and then come to Northern Ireland, they would then be subject to the EU tariff coming into Northern Ireland from GB. So it even gets more convoluted than it was to start with.
What's the answer to this? What can Sir Keir Starmer practically do, in your view, for Northern Ireland?
Well, since it's clear that it's better for business to be in the UK than in the EU, in that the tariffs on UK business is less than on EU business, what Keir Starmer should be doing, if he's interested in protecting the integrity of the United Kingdom, is making sure that we all are on the same playing field, and that means reversing the Windsor Framework provisions, which put us under a foreign customs code. You know, this is what happens when you put part of your territory under a foreign customs code. You then lose control of the tariffs on the goods coming into that territory, and yet we're part of the United Kingdom.
Jim Allister, thank you very much.